A lot of traffic out tonight. Shouldn't people be watching football or football? Either one. So, a little bit of trash here in the park. So earlier I called my father-in-law a coward, and he's a 3-time Purple Heart recipient. A lot of people have problems with that. I would say I would love it if he would live up to that. So part of the reason why they call it courage is because you're willing to do the right thing, even if there's negative consequences. So for me, it's the right thing to call him out, because he's lived most of his life not doing the right thing. You know, even though he pretends that he's doing the right thing. So, and he's been living off the accolades of Vietnam. You know, you don't know the circumstances when someone gets injured or wounded in combat. A lot of times it's just oops. Sometimes it's friendly fire. Like, what's his name? That guy we have the fun run for? I don't know. Some guy that went to ASU and then whatever is, I don't even care about him anymore because it's all bullshit. So, you know, but he was killed in friendly fire. It's like, what the fuck? So, but yeah, you know, my father-in-law has been living off the accolades of, you know, Purple Hearts for a very long time, and he won't even stand up to his wife when she's acting like a cunt. So, I you know, from that perspective, you don't expect any of his children to have any courage as well. So, and it's been very difficult with his daughter, his oldest daughter, the one that I married, to get her to realize how important her integrity is and how it's compromised often by simply trying to keep from hurting someone's feelings or being loyal. You know, my father used to say, you know, blood is thicker than water. It's not. And what he's saying is that, you know, don't rat on your family or whatever. And he was trying to just manipulate us to not tell on all the fucking illegal shit he was doing. So I remember, though, he came home one night and roughed me up a bit because I hadn't done the dishes, and he was upset and drunk, and his mom had cancer and just having a bad day, and I ended up calling the police on him and had him arrested and had to testify in court against him, and he fought it, and you know, and then I think I told you guys, and then somehow the family forgot about me, and then guess who was in charge of driving me home? Yeah, Dad. And then he gives me that old, I can't believe you ratted on your old man, you know. It's like, dude, you're like 150 pounds greater than me. Like, what was I supposed to do, fight you? And well, that's what he did. He tried to fight his dad at like 12, and that's why he ended up joining the army at like 16. So, because, you know, he wanted to leave, and his dad wanted him to leave too, and they were having knockdown, drag out fights like every night. So I think yeah, up until he was about 12, and then they moved him out to a farm that was like, it reminded me a lot in that scene in Mad Men where Don was raised on a farm. Yeah, I think it was it a whorehouse? Yeah, it was like a brothel, a country brothel. But I love John Hamm's portrayal of that. He's just kind of oofy doofy. Well, my weed killer paid off a little bit. Got to come back and revisit it. So, but yeah, I wanted to talk about too. Was you know, just because you're rich doesn't mean you're right. And just because you're pretty doesn't mean you should get your way. So it took me a while to figure that out, of why I don't like my mom and why I don't like cheerleaders and jock types. And that was because they get away with a lot of stuff just based on their looks or their status in our system. You know, public schooling system. And then of course the rich have their own environment that they, you know, play in with the rest of us. poor people. So, and it's not fair, and it's meant to be that way. It's not meant to be fair. So it's up to you to still do the right thing and be willing to do the right thing. And again, that's why it's called courage. It's not something that, you know, they just hand out when you don't win a race, or when you know, go along with everybody else. I was thinking about how, you know, the reason why we have America in the first place is because people were willing to sacrifice their lives and their livelihoods and imprisonment in order to stand up and do the right thing. And nobody does that anymore. So guess what? You're going to get what you're going to get. So that you get with the abuse that you're fed up with. It's a lot of sunshine that way. I'm going to go cruise behind the Goodwill. You know, so nobody wants to sacrifice. Nobody wants to stand up and do the right thing. And then everybody complains. So this has nothing to do with voting. Okay, just by the way. I'm in favor of policies, not politicians. I was talking to Sherry about that the other day. It's like, you know, the idea of electing politicians is meant to bring variety, but really what you really should have is principles and policies in place that sort of just draw a line in the sand, and like that's the end of it. We're not going to have any more discussion about this. You know, because it's the utmost right thing to do. So, but the whole system is corrupt, and people are corrupt, and what's funny, I was remembering one of my mentors. Well, she wasn't my mentor, but she was one of the group people in Omega. She was talking about fractured personalities. So, in someone with a fractured personality, meaning that their integrity is out of alignment, that, you know, their words do not match their actions. The problem with somebody like this is that they assume everybody else is just as shitty as they are, and so they will often assume the worst about people. And, you know, when you say something to them, they take it out of context. And what the trend lately has been is victimization of self, and of course that leads to genocide, according to Jordan Peterson, which is, I'll put a link to in the video. So, but a little more graffiti, we got to take care of that. Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to talk about, was the broken windows study. So I forget when it was. I'll look it up and put a link to it in the description. So there was a study done in the, I think it was in the 50s, maybe 60s. And what they realized was that wherever there was broken windows, there was a higher tendency for crime. And so when you read the study, or at least when I do, I realize that the reason why there's more crime is because it shows, when you see broken windows, it shows that people don't care. And so people then, you know, because they're not being held accountable, they get away with more stuff, and then it's fucking Lord of the Flies kind of shit if it never gets regulated. So the weird thing is, the police in general, and you can just account it to the police union, that shit in Philly is really fucked up too, with the fucking police union. I'm not happy with those motherfuckers. I'll post a link to that as well. The Philly cops, that's completely unacceptable. But you know, you got to understand these cops, man, and this has been going on for a really long time. Is number one, the immunity, which I hope people are helping to end. Again, policy. This has nothing to do with politicians. It has to do with policy. So, but the broken window study, what you want to do is, when you see a broken window, you fix it. That's what the broken windows study should tell people. So when you see graffiti, you address it. You know, but somehow the cops interpreted that study and said, no, if somebody graffitis on a wall, we should basically execute them. And that's where you come up with these ridiculous policies of like zero tolerance drug policy in schools, and you know, in teenage crime and things like that. And So what ends up happening is, some teenager that, I don't know, did something stupid, foolish, short-sighted, ends up in prison for 20 years. That's what that, I don't even want to say it's a misinterpretation, because I think it's actually just the way that most police think, is the us versus them, and they're just scared cowards that don't have the smarts to figure out another way to negotiate things. So including Officer Plott of Mesa PD, who charged me with refusing to give my ID but while behind my fence on my own property, and malicious destruction of property, which of course is not. I'm appealing that stuff, so that'll be interesting to see what that judge says, Superior Court judge. So that's part of my argument, is that Officer Plott is an idiot, and he's just inexperienced, and he made the wrong call. And what's really fucked up is how the prosecutor went along with it, and then so did the judge. So, because somehow I got convicted. She saw no unreasonable doubt of my guilt, which is insane, because I didn't do any of that stuff. So, but and I'm white, so I can only imagine what it's like to be black or brown or some sort of minority in this society. It's horrible. And so, again, the responsibility is on all of us to stand up and do the right thing. And it doesn't have to be a fucking revolution. The revolution is in your mind. So it's a really, oh Jesus, we got to clean that up. What the fuck is wrong with people? Self-pity. But and this is why I go on these cruises, right? It's relaxing, sort of. It gets me riled up and says I need to participate more in my community. And sometimes doing that is just picking up trash that nobody else will pick up, right? Cleaning up the messes that nobody else will clean up. Again, having the courage to do the right thing, and my sacrifice is my time, and often I don't want to say my dignity, but definitely the way that people see me. So, when you stop caring about what other people think of you, that's freedom. That's real freedom, and it's amazing. So I'd much rather be a guy that controls wealth and dresses like a schlub than a rich guy that everybody is impressed with, but only until they give him some, he gives out money or something like that, or some sort of job or some bullshit like that. That kind of status is paper thin. It's a paper tiger. So, but and you see that in a lot of cultures. That's one of the things I feel really disgusted about. Something came up in the news about Dua Lipa, and I'm like, I saw that thing on Netflix where it's basically behind the music, and they show how the record was made or whatever, and she had this pop hit or whatever, and good for her. But it was it just seemed like there was no substance to the whole thing, or her as an artist. And then when this thing came up, there's something about how she wore some pants that with a cut in the front, to show off the mound or something like that. And when you see it, it's not even that risque. That's Kardashians are willing to do that shit. Fuck, Kim's willing to take a load for a celebrity. So, but it's just this. See, and again, I don't want to judge her, because I don't really know her intent. But when you look at her Instagram page, she's doing ads for, high-end brands and things like that, and it just seems really like what are you doing, And you can say, well, you can argue, waving to the cops, to the ghetto bird. So you can say that, good for her, get hers, because it is our responsibility. It is our responsibility not to fall for things like advertising. So, but what about the people that do fall for advertising, or do seek status, or do think that, if I just own this, is it Hermes? If I do own this Hermes bag, then everyone will love me. That's a really sad sentiment, but that's exactly how many people express themselves, and it's a waste of money and time and energy. And again, the real satisfaction is in helping people. How can and I don't mean about giving away wealth, and I don't mean about giving away housing or anything like that. You have to really integrate yourself with people's lives to help them in a way that even they don't know how. So, but that's why it's called tough love. It's not easy love, right? It's a tough thing to tell someone no, and it's a tough thing to tell a grown adult that thinks they're doing good that they're a disastrous monster who is a closet alcoholic and doesn't even know they are, right? That's tough love. So, but there are millions of people in that same situation that they're like, well, at least I don't do crack, or at least I don't do heroin. And it's like, no, but you have the same sort of mindset of you got to have CNN on 24/7 so that you can be alert. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Or you're always going to wine tasting parties, but you're not an alcoholic. It's like, no, you're an alcoholic. You have a job, and it's called high functioning alcoholism. So, and again, it's not the addiction, it's not the alcohol, that's the problem. It's the self-pity. It's, do you hold yourself accountable? And do you sacrifice? Do you get to choose your sacrifice of how to make your life better and how to make other people's lives better? No. So typical American is just a princess, is someone that just, I'm blah, 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 whatever your advantage is in life. And it could be anything. It doesn't have to be white or color or anything like that, or money or anything like that. But then, the rest of the sentence is, well, that's why I can do this, and you're just not holding yourself accountable. And so if you don't hold yourself accountable, nobody around you is ever going to. And when they do, they're going to look like the enemy. So, but, and that's what I'm experiencing at this point. And, it's not the first time I've done this. Fuck. My mom is one of the most horrible, horrendous people I've ever met. I mean, just absolute psychotic. And, but she has really great friends, and people really think the best of her, So she puts on it. And that was one of the things we really hated as kids, because she would put on a good face for, like her yoga group coming over. And of course she gets to look good in front of her yoga group or her breathing group or whatever. And then she was a real shithead to us kids, as if we were pests and we didn't understand how awesome she was. And I'm like, no, we understand that you're a cunt and that you're selfish and that you're doing this to satisfy your ego and or pick up men or meet men and things like that. So, but you can't have that conversation with her, right? With someone like that, you can't. So, because in her mind, she's a good person, because she does all the things that society tells her to do, or something like that. There's a lot of people like that, that follow certain rules, but when it comes down to it, they're just cowards and pieces of shit. And for them to look at the debt that they owe, the redemption, it's unfathomable, and they just, it's too much for them. And so then they whimper out like a coward. But any good movie, any really good movie, you see at the very end that they redeem themselves, that they do something that is sacrificial. They do something that makes things right, or at least makes an attempt at some sort of justice. So, and just so you're aware, justice is a complete luxury. Justice is an illusion. It is not real. On any in any stretch of the imagination. Okay, so the closest thing that we have is here in America, and I told you my story. So people are getting fucked every day, and so the best thing you can do is just document it and hold people accountable the best you can, and then make your little tiny mark, so that when the time comes, they have enough marks behind them, and some judge hopefully will hold them accountable, and that'll be the end of that. So for me, it was Tony Rodriguez in high school. So there was this little shit named Travis Brenner, who was like the front man. What was the name of his band? I don't even remember. But he just thought he was hot shit, and he would lead these band of loser skateboarders. And I, of course, never bought into it. And of course, this was innate. Because I'm not that kind of guy. I don't want to follow it. I'd rather go do my own thing. I'd rather be ostracized. And so I never gave him the props that he felt like he deserved. And then finally one day I just had enough of his shit. And I think I grabbed his hat and pulled it down and was like, that's right. He was talking shit about me and my hair. He was saying that I wasn't original. And I was like, you know what? I'm tired of you. And then I just grabbed his hat, and then I didn't even know he punched me until the next day when I was having cereal. and my jaw, I couldn't open my jaw because he had hit me. So, but I ended up wrestling him to the ground, and then I put him in a chokehold and waited for him to give up. And then I slapped him in the face and called him a bitch, and I said, "Are you going to mess with me anymore?" And he's like, "No." And I'm like, "All right then." And that's when the gardeners, the landscape guys showed up, and they pulled us into the principal's office. And then, of course, Jack Joyce, Mr. I found out later, Mr. Coke on the beach in Rocky Point kind of guy, which was a great fact to find out about him. But Jack Joyce had been hunting for Travis for a very long time, because Travis and his little band of shitheads had been terrorizing the school and just causing mayhem. And so I basically just said, yeah, he threw the first punch. And so, boom, they suspended him for 3 days. Not that it does anything. Fucking anybody that's ever been suspended from public schools knows that it's not shit. So here's the kicker. So he ended up scratching me, not on purpose, with his coke nail, because he had a coke nail, because he acted like he did coke and was badass. And that was the only real, scar that he left on me. I definitely put some fear in him after that. So you got to remember too, Travis Brenner is like 4'10". Like, he's this tiny little guy. And even I think this was sophomore or junior year, I was like 6 foot already, or just shy of 6 foot. And so it was weird. Some people were like glad that I finally taught him a lesson, hauled off and whooped the soup out of him, as they say in Kentucky. Because he was a bully, and he was a bully to me, and he was a bully to a lot of other people. And but I finally stood up and did what I felt was the right thing. I didn't kill him, right? And that's one of my greatest fears about when I get into a fist fight or some sort of physical altercation, is that I want to pull their heart out and eat it in front of them. That's the kind of monster that Jordan Peterson talks about, that it's important to acknowledge that monster within you, but it's also important to control that monster. But when it's time to let that monster out, you let them out and let them do what they're good at. Man, what are you doing back here? Huh? Illegal dumping. That's my job. Thank you very much. What are you doing? You're doing drugs. Go do your drugs somewhere else, backpack guy. So, but looks like a raccoon over there. What is that? Is it just trash? Trash. So I got in the altercation with Travis, and then I was heading off campus to go home, and I was confronted by the local infamous cocaine dealer named Tony Rodriguez, who, legend has it, he got into a fight so bad and he beat a guy so hard they had to replace his knuckles with titanium. Yeah. Of course, it's all bullshit. So, but anyways, Tony happened to be friends with Travis. So maybe that coke nail was there for a good reason. I don't know. But Tony was an infamous cocaine dealer there in North Mesa, Central Mesa. And he felt like I disrespected Travis. And so he cold cocked me. He sucker punch. And luckily, though, I had my hands up saying, I don't want any problems with you, Tony. And I had nodded my head in, submission. Like, I had just tilted my head forward like, I don't need this shit. Well, lucky for me, it gave him my brow rather than my eye. And so I have this nice big scar on the top of my eye where he split it open, and it really fucked up his hand. So I hope he did get titanium fingers after that. So, but what was funny was my friend Corey, she watched the whole thing. And I'm still friends with her on Facebook if you want to go check her out. She's a little cutie, and she's funny. And but Corey, I think it was Bletcher, something like that. Anyways, she saw the whole thing, and I got so pissed, not because Tony punched me, but because I'm like, fuck, this is another thing I got to deal with. I'm bleeding all over the place. Like, I got other things I want to go do. Like, that's why I was pissed. And so then I had to go to the nurse, and then they put like some weird stitches on it. And then now I got to go home to my mom, who, again, with the fractured personality, thinks the worst of me, even though I'm just a fucking good boy for the most part, especially compared to the neighbors. And I got to explain to her now that she's got to, pay for some stitches. So, but luckily I filed charges, and of course it didn't do anything. But later on, the city of Mesa, which I don't agree with, they charged him as an adult. They waited until he was an adult, because when he hit me, he was 17. I don't agree with prosecutors that do that shit. That's a sneaky, dirty trick. And it's not, anytime you compromise your integrity like that, you're not doing anybody any favor. So again, they should have the same policy, which is that charge him as a minor, and you just watch the fuck out of him, right? Especially a high-level coke dealer like that. He was working at like Kevin's Discount and some other bullshit stores to cover up for his IRS earnings, shit like that. So, but anyways. But you make your mark, and you move on. So what was great is that my mom got to bill him for his for the stitches, and so of course he had to pay that in court fines and all that kind of stuff. And my mom ended up finally getting some money, which sort of doesn't really satisfy her, because nothing ever satisfies her. So, but I survived, and I got a really cool story for it, and I got a cool scar above my eye. And the weird thing is, my troubling friend, Russ Rodriguez, later on when we were cruising up in my car, we went to some skank's house, to get some easy pussy. And guess who was there for the easy pussy too? Tony Rodriguez. And so he approached the car, and he's like, hey, what the fuck? He like, please, dude, I'm talking about stereotypical Mr. Cool Guy, owns the world. And of course, it's funny, his brothers were all like miniature versions of him. Benny and the other one, he has a bunch of half brothers. His mom had like 5 baby mamas. It was crazy. And or was it baby daddies? So like each one of them were from a different dad. And but they were all like tough and all this kind of bullshit, and all dealing coke and all that stuff. But so anyways, Tony was like, the fuck, what's up with that fines I had to pay? And I was like, I can't do anything about it, man. It's my mom. She had to fork out some money for that shit. So that was just, it's nothing personal. So he goes, all right, that's cool. And then he let us go. He didn't do anything. So, and then I think it was like a month later, me and Russ had this stupid idea, and I supported it. It was dumb. We ended up robbing his girlfriend's house while her and her parents were out on vacation. And then we pawned off some of the stuff, and we sawed off one of the shotguns and sold it to Tony. So the irony of that is that I think Tony got busted with that, which is a huge felony. But again, you make your marks on people, and eventually you don't want to say karma is a bitch or karma comes around. That's not how it is. But again, the illusion of these gnats are killing me. The illusion of justice is an illusion, and it's important that you recognize that, and that you will be shorted and you will be wronged. And that's why, what's that prayer? The Father, don't trespass against us, all that kind of stuff, Our Father, yeah. So it's actually a really good prayer, and it's got a lot of good meaning. The problem is that people just repeat it like a chant, and they don't really listen to what it is or apply what's in it. So, but I forgive Tony, and I forgive Russ Rodriguez, and I hope that Russ's girlfriend Karen forgives me for stealing her high school flute and then pawning it. Not that I was on drugs. Russ did all the drugs for us, so we invested in like 20 hits of acid, and then we'd keep a couple of pieces for ourselves for dancing all night at the Silver Dollar Club. And then, what do you know, Russ would always lose the acid when he was selling. He was selling it out the side and not giving me my cut, motherfucker. So, but you live and you learn, and you try to start over, and you try to, every new place that you move to that's new, every new day every new moment is a blank slate. What are you going to fill it with? That's the choice that you have. Every moment of every day, of every hour, is how are you going to fill it? And so you have to decide, is it going to be something worthwhile? Is it going to be something that, you're proud of? Of course, all those crimes, I'm not proud of those things, but I share them with you so that you understand that I'm not who I seem now. Does that make any sense? The person I am now is not who I was, and you can change, and you can be better, and you can make things right in your life. Sometimes it's just cleaning up. Those are exercise tires, not ghetto tires. Sometimes little things like just picking up trash does, it helps you feel good, and it helps people, and it does something, because the world and the universe certainly gives no shits about us on this little planet, on this little marble, and it could all end in 30 minutes from now. So for me, it's important to appreciate this, and just, I'd rather use my last moments on earth to love than to hate and to be mad. That's all. There's an innate natural reward, and I think it's serotonin or dopamine or something like that when you do good things. It's built into us to do good things. And personally, that's why I think that God is actually an alien that's going to show up and someday harvest our blood for the gold, But that's I think I told you guys about that screenplay. That's going to be a fun screenplay. So, but again, I'd rather have fun than be miserable. So, and I'd rather think the best of people than the worst. So, but I think that's enough ranting and a full-on double Sunday sermon today. If you don't do something different, your life will never change. So start doing things different. Yesterday is gone. Yesterday does not exist. The future does not exist. It's something that you create. It's something that you manifest. So have intention, and then follow it up with action, which is behavior. And even if it doesn't turn out the way you want it, try again. As long as you're alive, again, anything less than death, you can keep trying, right? So I love you guys. Have a great week.